Hey,
Buddy.
Skip. All right. Well, it's really beautiful to see all of your faces. I feel excited. Just take a breath, do a little wiggling. I always feel a little bit scared when I start these calls. So here I am. So, my name is Michelle Yasuda, and I'm the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. And these programs support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And I feel really excited to have you all join us for one of our favorite ways of expressing that creativity, which is our Big Leap Bridge community classes. And so this is a space where we engage in Hendricks practices so we can build community while we discover, learn, and play together. So now it is my great pleasure to say an appreciation for our speaker tonight, our facilitator. So, Skip, I have experienced you as a bright light, as someone who is grounded in yourself and your integrity. Like, here I am. I really get that. Like, here you are. And just the curiosity that feels infinite, like an infinite curiosity. And what I really appreciate is how engaged you are in what you're passionate about. And I so appreciate that. And I appreciate the connection I've had with you during this whole time of getting to know you for this class. And yay. So I just want to turn the call over to you and let's have fun.
Thank you, Michelle. Can everyone hear me? I want to make sure that I'm connected to you all. It's great to see all of your faces. I see some familiar faces and some I haven't met before. So yeah, feeling happy, and I noticed this sort of zinging, fluttering sensation. Let's call them electric butterflies right now. They're kind of going around my stomach and fluttering all around as if I can hear them sort of around the room that I'm in. And you can see me, my background is not real, but I am connecting to all of you in Japan. And I've lived here for 30 years. Currently in Tokyo. And for the interest of being authentic, I'm going to turn off my beautiful Japanese garden that I would love to be in real life, but I'm not. So here's where I am. A little bit more plain, a little bit more real. So hello, everyone, again. And I want to thank Michelle and the Hendricks Institute, and especially Gay and Katie have been my mentors for, oh my gosh, over 20 years now. And I've got so many gifts, and this opportunity to connect with all of you today about one of my favorite subjects is one of them. Also, many of you are from the community that has been one of the biggest, I would say one of the most valuable gifts I've received in my time in learning all of these skills, is the connections with all of you in this learning community. So I noticed my breath just got shallow, and I'm going to take a nice big yummy breath right now. I invite you to join me. See some people moving and stretching, and since it's my morning, it's 10:07 a.m. here in Tokyo. But wherever you are in the world, I imagine you've had some experiences to getting here. So let's do whatever we can do right now in our bodies to land fully here. And welcome. Welcome to all of you. And I really want to say that in a particular way, to welcome to all of each of you. That for me, this is a journey of learning to feel welcome in our own bodies. And so this idea of welcome is, I want to make sure that we all hear it, because I think many of us didn't get the message that we were welcome in the world, or in some way. Maybe it might be a more subtle version. I think a lot of us got this one, that you are welcome, and except that little part of you, that one, we would not mind if that part went away, but the rest of you is completely welcome, right? Like, there's something, I hope all of you don't have that experience at all, that you've always felt 100% welcome. But if you did, if something popped up, then just give a little nod to the one in you that maybe it has felt less welcome before, and let's welcome that part of you. So this idea for me of being fully welcome to be here, all of me, this is deeply connected to our exploration today of emotional literacy. And for me, well, first, it's part of a series. So I want to acknowledge that uh, I learned this as a set, and this learning it as a set of 4 pillars of integrity was extremely helpful to me to understand that part of living as a whole person, the base of the word integrity is wholeness, that there are these core skills sets, and some of them are, for instance, conscious communication, the art of agreements, sometimes called impeccable agreements, healthy responsibility, and today's topic, emotional literacy. And they all are kind of interconnected in these organic ways that will probably show up today. And we're going to focus on emotional literacy. And this is, I don't like to pick favorites, but this is one of my favorites to talk about because it was so hard for me. And so I get some of the most value out of this journey. And today I want to share with you some of the, I guess, the nuggets, the gold nuggets that I've gotten over the years from this exploration of emotional literacy. Sometimes I call it emotional literature by mistake. I didn't say that yet, did I? Because if I did, I would just point to, read Conscious Loving. That was the first book that opened the doors to me for this, and I'm going to come back to it in a second. So first, a quick introduction. I was born and raised in the US and have lived in Japan since 1990. And I would say there are about 4 steps that I took to get where I am now, which is perfectly imperfect and feeling all the messy feelings that humans feel, but I didn't really start that way. So I want to kind of share the 4 steps that got me here, but I guess not in order. For some reason, I want to tell you the 3rd step first. So step 3 for me was I became and trained as a counselor around age 20, and it was right at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. So I did a lot of work with people who were living and dying with AIDS, HIV, and their families. And this started my journey of talking about feelings, learning about emotion and how important they are. And it was about 10 years later that I finally read the book Conscious Loving and discovered that during that whole decade, I had a lot of head knowledge about feelings, but wasn't really experiencing them, as wasn't really aware of how to locate and live fully in the realm of feelings. So I want to tell you why that was so hard. And that was that I want to go back to the training that I had between around, I want to say 12 to 16. I had a kind of a direct mentorship with a guy named Mr. Spock. And he taught me the art of being a Vulcan, which was don't feel anything, just put a lid on it and be logical. And this was a great coping mechanism for a teenager with a lot of roiling feelings that I didn't know what to do with. Just pretend they're not there. I say great, it was a terrible coping mechanism, but it was the best I could come up with at the time. So I guess when I went into my 20s, I was still running on this idea that feelings are important, but let's talk about them and acknowledge them in others, but maybe not actually feel them, because who'd want to do that? And right now, I notice that I have this sort of feeling of thickness in my chest right now. So I'm just going to acknowledge that I have some sadness about that time in my life. And right now, in this moment, I'm going to ask you to, even though I'm in the middle of my introduction, without any other context, I'd like to ask you to do two things, or rather, two questions. And then I'd like you to post in the chat the answer to the second question. So don't worry about the context. We'll weave that in later. But just notice if you're aware of any particular part of your body right now more than another. If there's one part that says hello, that wants you to say hello back. So that's question one. And you don't need to write that. You can if you want. But just say hello to that body part like I'm doing right now for my chest. Yeah. Okay. Question number two. Is there a part of your body that you haven't heard from in a while? Just, it could be anything. It could be your elbow, it could be your pelvis, your big toe. Just notice if there's, what part of your body are you least aware of right now? And if you're willing to, could you just type that body part in the chat? Lower back, ankles, sides of my trunk, legs and feet. Yeah. Hello, legs and feet. Yeah, lots of stuff. Great. Ears. Left elbow. Love it. So I imagine that you might have noticed something when I did this. When I asked you to check what part of your body you were least aware of, it's probably not the part of your body you're least aware of anymore. But thank you for saying hello to it. Yeah. And in bringing all of us here, sometimes I wonder, hey, it's been a while since I felt that feeling. What's going on there? So I want all of us to make space for stuff might show up today and to be friendly with it. And I'm going to continue in kind of a light-hearted way by saying that my first advanced study that I want to share with you was when I was about 4 or 5, I did some advanced research in potty training. And I was especially interested in the questions around this concept called holding it. So I don't know if you can relate to this, but I'd mastered the idea that this sensation in my body that feels kind of full down below the navel, this kind of like maybe even a little bit sloshy, was need to go pee. And then the next stage was, but I don't get to do that all the time when I want to. And so I went through a whole bunch of things like, well, okay, first, can I learn to do this? Can I learn to hold it? But what if I really gotta go? And I guess I realized that a lot of other people were doing the same research, and there wasn't really anything unique about that. So in my studies, I found a question that I haven't heard a lot of other people ask. And this seriously happened when I was 5. I don't know if this has happened to you. I'd actually like you to raise your hands because this intrigues me even now. Did you ever like really, really gotta go and then you couldn't, so you held it and then the sensation went away? Like all of a sudden it wasn't an emergency anymore for a while? So this really, really concerned me at the time because I thought, wait a second, if I have successfully ignored the sensation, is it gonna go away forever? What if I get really good at that and then all of a sudden, or maybe slowly over time, maybe I'll be 50 and I won't know how to go to the bathroom anymore. I won't be able to read the signals. And I was actually afraid of this, that maybe this isn't a very good skill to learn. And I don't think I was able to articulate it. My mother is actually here on the call, and I'm sure she's hearing this story for the first time. Um, I didn't know what to do with that information, but I did learn that for the purposes of the calls of nature wasn't a problem. But it turned out to be really, really relevant later because as I learned in my teens to ignore one or two of the feelings I didn't want to feel, I ended up getting out of touch with all of them. And this really was the reason that I got on this path is, oh no, I've forgotten how to feel. Um, that doesn't sound like it's a good thing. And I actually wound up in a place in my late teens where I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life, what motivated me, what my passion was. I was completely without direction because I had no inner compass. I had no way of knowing what's important to me. So before we dive deep into the gifts of feelings, and especially for me, what was really, really valuable about that, let's make some space for what are the reasons not to feel that we tell ourselves? You know, because many of us have either one or several feelings that we would maybe prefer not to feel. So, what are the stories? Yeah, Darlene wrote, not the right time. What are the stories like that, that, you know, or maybe it's I'm too busy, or, and feel free to write or not. I'm going to sort of, if I start, I'll never stop. I love that one. Yeah. My version of that is I'll get lost in them, or they just get in the way. Feelings just get in the way. Just get over it already. And maybe that's something that I'm telling myself, but I kind of feel like sometimes we do hear those voices outside and then we start to say them to ourselves. So it might be something like, are you still sad about that? Or how about just don't go there. Just, yeah, let's just not go there. Actually, one of my favorites is don't get me started, because I feel like this one is the opposite, right? This is like telling someone, please get me started. I really want to monopolize the next 5 or 10 minutes of your time to go on a rant about how I'm so angry that this. So don't get me started is probably a bit of a call for attention. But then there's things like, no, 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 no. Feelings get in the way. I need to be objective here. I don't want my feelings to cloud my judgment. Yeah, I'll feed it and it'll become unmanageable. Enough of that already. Yeah. This is the wrong feeling. Yeah, I'm having the wrong feeling right now. People make fun of me. Yeah, yeah. And, you know, they're not reliable. They're constantly changing. And oh my God, people are going to call me moody. You know, why would I want to have a rich relationship with emotions if I'm just sitting in them all the time and being moody? That's, you know, unless I'm a blues artist or something, I guess. No, I'm an engineer. I shouldn't have feelings, you know, something like that. So there's so many reasons. Not safe, yeah. And I really want to make space for all of these reasons that we've had up until now. And I imagine that all of you are here because you're open to the possibility that there's something more, that there are some gifts that make it worth it to go on the ride, the emotional ride of whatever it is that looks inconvenient at the time, that might feel like a distraction from what's in front of you, even though the emotion itself is actually what's in front of you, right? In that moment. So thank you for going on that journey of reasons not to feel. If you have more bubbling up, I'd love for you to give yourself the space to continue to express it. That saying hello to the voice that says, I don't wanna, will give us space to go forward. So for me, I guess the biggest gift of opening to feel my feelings is that I get to be real. That I'm really able now to connect with myself. And that includes, right in the beginning, connecting with this feeling of how disconnected I was. Right then, even though I'm feeling the ache of disconnect or the heartbreak or whatever that is, that's a feeling and I'm connected with it. And all of a sudden I'm having a real experience in my body. Maybe all of a sudden isn't the right word. Sometimes I'll catch myself translating because I have lived more than half my life in a country where, yeah, we don't speak much English here sometimes. So you might catch me pausing, translating. I'll try and do the, oh wait, this means something else in the US, doesn't it? This is, I just remembered. So yeah, yeah. What's true for me now is that I, I discovered through being available to feeling that that's the only way to have real connections with others. So I finally became free of the doubt of, uh, is this person really here for me in my life? Am I really in the right place? Do I feel, um, yeah, it's like my connections with other people were no longer, there's no longer any room for doubt. And my connection with life, you know, I have a way to now immediately tune in to, yep, I'm alive right now. And that aliveness is energy. And that energy is here in this body, in your body, doing something right now. So I have huge gratitude if it were just that, just to be able to be real, you know, the journey of Pinocchio to becoming a real boy. And I think that's a boy story because I think if there's a gendered thing, then part of the thing about toxic masculinity that's getting examined in many societies right now is that boys are taught not to feel. Um, Girls are taught things that are also very unhealthy about feelings. So um, I'm going to let go of the gendered thing, but just make space for the idea that we probably are here against the odds in some ways, that many of the things we've gotten from society are not uh, conducive to welcoming our feelings. And instead, it's more about the control or the move on or things like that. So for me, the problem with that was there's so many moments that I've now learned to be available to life. So that's not a problem. That's the solution. No, that's the gift, isn't it? That, like, have you ever missed a moment, whether it was walking past the flowers that you walk by every day, but they were blooming more fully today, or your friends saying, "Oh my God, look at that sunset," and you're like, "Yeah, but I'm reading a book, or I'm watching TV, or I'm looking at my cell phone." You know, those moments that can touch us deeply can only touch us if we're available to what's happening in our bodies in the moment. So that was something that I learned to do is oh, this is where the beauty gets deeply appreciated. This is where the opportunity for this endless now to give all of its juicy, brilliant, delicious moments. So, but there are a couple other things that I think are gifts that I want to make sure that we look at when we practice the skills of emotional literacy. We also get to be free from them in a way, or maybe it's better to say free with them. Like instead of emotions being distractions, we can learn to ride them in ways that deepen our appreciation of what we're up to, that give us more depth, actually. That's what I found. And the other thing is, and this is, I'm translating from Japanese, there's a phrase here that's used often with sake, with alcohol, which is, it's okay if you drink it, but don't let it drink you. So the idea is, you know, after the third or fourth glass, you're not drinking the sake anymore. You're not drinking the wine anymore. It's drinking you. And I find that with emotions too, there's a skill to drinking them in and not having them drink us in, right? So we want to know, how can we be with our emotions, especially when they're a little scary, like they might be big or powerful or overwhelming. So yeah, this idea that our feelings connect us directly to our wholeness. They give me an experience of even I'm not just this body, that if I'm when I've taken the time to feel my sensations and let them guide my attention, all of a sudden I notice that I'm feeling things that I can't really explain as in my body. And I'm having the thought that I'm saying all of a sudden and not a lot, and it's probably more of a gradual process. So if you hear me saying all of a sudden, um, think over the course of 10 years, all of a sudden you will develop this ability. Yeah, here's something that I told myself I wasn't going to do, and I did it anyway. I want to get clear on what we're not talking about today. And in order to do this, I made a slide. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. And I was really excited about creating a PowerPoint that had no words. I was just going to make it with emojis, and we were all going to have a giggle about how this is the nonverbal realm, and we don't need words to communicate this stuff. And instead, I made the wordiest slide I've ever made in my life, and I'm about to show it to you so that we can get clear on what are emotions, what are feelings. So I'm going to do that now, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope I made the right decision. Let's see. So sharing screen. So I'm going to make sure this is filling the screen. Do you see two colors? Okay, we good? All right. So I'm going to start with what feelings are not. And I want to get clear what we're not talking about today is things like this. So feelings are not my thoughts, story, and interpretation of the feeling. So you jerk is not a feeling. Or nobody appreciates me. That's a story, not a feeling. And interpretation. So let's say you don't appreciate me because you didn't say thank you before you left. That would be an interpretation, but not a feeling. And so feelings are also not our analysis of the feeling, our explanation, or our justification. So they're not, I have trust issues because my parents didn't buy me the right cereal when I was a kid. Or when we explain our feeling, well, I'm sad because that's not a feeling either. And that's a really popular one, the because I'm angry at you because story. And these are all ones I've done, by the way. And one of my favorites is justification. So I have a right to be angry right now. That's justification, but that's not a feeling. And then someone already posted about this, but then we have judgments about our feelings, right? So I shouldn't be having this feeling now, or I'm having the wrong feeling. And so also, they're not a problem to solve. So we're not here to solve the problem of our feelings. We're here to discover what we can learn from them. And all of this stuff that I've been talking about is in the realm of thinking, which is great. We have brains that allow us to tackle problems and solve them with things like analyzing and interpreting. And our thoughts can be useful, but they're not very useful in the feeling realm. So we're also not here to talk about my reactions or impulse to do something about the feeling. So I'm going to say this is the realm of action. And we might have an impulse come up with a feeling, but today we're not going to look at that. We're not going to go into the fact that we might have a feeling and then we smile. We'll just say smiling isn't the feeling itself. Neither is crying or punching someone's lights out. And a feeling is not, well, you've got another thing coming, Buster. And some people say it's another thing coming. I learned that it's another thing coming. So anyway, so it's none of these things. And in my research, I have learned that basically anything with the word buster in it is not a feeling. So just clear the story with that. And also, I'm pretty sure that the word buster hasn't been used by anyone since about 1976. So I might need to update the slides. Please insert more up-to-date word if you've got any. So these are all not feelings. What are feelings then? So maybe some dubious aesthetic choices here, but I thought I would bring in the cloud and say what feelings actually are, but leave this other stuff in the background because, you know, those thoughts and impulses are there in the background, right? When we're having a feeling. But what feelings actually are, we can call them emotions, we can call them feelings, we can call them sensations. And these words I might use interchangeably, a lot of us do, but they tend to overlap a little bit. And I hope to give you some clarity by the end of today on how they're different. But in many ways, they're synonymous. So first thing, feelings are facts. Something is happening in your body. There is a chemical reaction, little biohormonal chemicals are going around telling your body to feel something and you're feeling them. So when you have a feeling, it's happening and there's nothing arguable about that. And we especially like to talk in conscious communication about the skill of speaking unarguably. So it's really good to know that I feel sad is unarguable. No one is going to come up to you and say, no, that's not sadness. You're actually crazy. Well, okay. It would be a crazy making conversation to have that sort of interchange. So for the most part, our feelings are unarguable and they're proof that we're alive. They are energy. Literally, emotion is energy in motion in our body. I put this in because sometimes they really do feel like waves. They feel like they come and they surge and then they kind of flow away. And sometimes they have a more granular aspect. There's a sense of bits of something doing something in my body, and I can tune into what the bits are doing. I like to think of emotions as doorways to wisdom and joy when we feel them all the way through. And your feelings are 100% worthy of your love. There are none that are beneath you, even if you have a story that says that they are. And so maybe they are both foolish and wise. Maybe they have an aspect that's younger than you. And I like to wonder, create some spacious place to question what gifts of wisdom might be in there as well. We call that tuning into our body wisdom, and feelings seem to be the key to that. So, are you interested in making friends with your feelings? Maybe, yeah, get some thumbs up, some clapping, thumbs, great. All right, end slideshow. That was last night. I geeked out on PowerPoint thinking that somehow that would deliver it clearly for you all. So I hope you like that. I live in Japan and I'm not in a Japanese garden right now, but I want to share an image with you from a Japanese garden. Have you ever seen, maybe not in Japan, maybe you've seen them in the States. Have you ever seen the fish called koi in a pond? So it's one of the fun things to do in a Japanese garden with a pond is to feed the koi. You can bring little pieces of bread or some kind of puffy snack for them and toss them in. And if you toss one in, you'll find that a whole bunch of koi will come up and be me, 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 you know, feed me, feed me. So, and it's kind of emerged from the depths. And I find that when we talk about emotions, stuff comes up and wants us to say hello to it. So I would like to take our first breakout room to just give some space to whatever might be coming up for you. And I want to do it in this completely free way. You don't need to talk about feelings, but what I'm going to suggest is that I've kind of taken you on a little journey already. We've talked about what feelings aren't, but they tend to show up in this kind of bundle sometimes, right? So the journey of getting clear on what feelings are, many of you have already been doing this for years. Many of you, or some of you, may just be starting to explore it. And I want to give you an opportunity to share with someone what your journey's been like. And we're going to do that in breakout rooms. So what I'd like to do is um, Michelle is going to send us into the various breakout rooms, and we'll take 3 minutes per person. We'll go in pairs. So anyone who doesn't want to do this, you're welcome to stay. And if you're willing to try this, all you're going to do is have someone listen to you say, yeah, feelings for me have been kind of a mystery, or I trained professionally and had a lot of head knowledge. In my case, this is my story, that learning to feel them wasn't until my 30s. So we'll take 2 minutes for each person to share. And so the speaker can just talk about anything that they want to, what's coming up for them. And if you have a feeling coming up now, you can mention it. The listener, though, also has something to do. What I'd like you to do when you're the listener, and please don't engage actively in the conversation, just be a spacious, conscious ear to them. And in other contexts, we can practice. Will you be timing? Yes, we're going to give you 7 minutes. That will be 3 minutes and 3 minutes for each of you to go. So we'll be able to switch sides, but actually we'd like you to time within that. So the 2 minutes of talk will be followed by 1 minute of sharing. And what I'd like the listener to share is, while you were listening to the other person, if any parts of your body piped up that wanted attention, just what body part were you aware of while you were listening to that person? So it could sound like, while I was listening to you, I noticed my chest. And if you want to mention a sensation, I noticed my chest felt heavy. But we're going to keep it simple. Just notice a body part while you're being with another person. And I know there are people who've done similar work to this before. If you want to add a little bit of complexity in that 1 minute, the speaker can also share a sensation that came up. But that's all we're doing. 2 minutes of share what you like about your journey, 1 minute of share body sensations, and then switch. Is that clear? All right. So we're going to pack an extra minute just for wiggle room, and Michelle's going to send you all off for 7 minutes. So see you in 7. And welcome back. How was that? Did you notice you had a body? Did you sense something in that body? Great, great. I was just sharing with Michelle my sense of time flying, and I want to really bring maybe the big nugget, the one thing that I'd like you all to take home. Although the first one thing was this idea of being able to see through the distraction of our mental story or the impulse to do something about a feeling, that there's this core that a feeling happens. And the piece that was mind-blowing for me is that feelings or emotions are sensations that we locate in the body. And this core skill of learning to locate our feelings in our body, for me, was such a central one. It was radical, because it meant I don't need my brain for this. And as a matter of fact, my brain is not very helpful in determining what feeling I'm having. And so I'll kind of break it down into 3 steps. So what I learned was that the ability to put my attention on what I'm actually feeling in the moment in my body, that there is energy doing something somewhere, and that where it's happening is really, really important, because there are lots of different sensations. And so at one stage, it's, well, some of these sensations are telling me things like I'm hungry, or ow, I stubbed my toe. And those are useful. We kind of in our human journey, we've kind of learned how to interpret those sensations, but to discern when body sensations are actually a feeling, that is huge. And especially we focus on what we call the big three, which are anger, sadness, and fear. And these three especially seem to cause the most trouble when we aren't aware of them, when we don't acknowledge them and make space for them in our bodies, and when we don't communicate them effectively to others. They act like, I don't know how many of you have experience with pets, but I'm a cat person with a dog history. I think I know a little bit of both. And I think I can say, maybe wobbly metaphor, that they want our attention sometimes. And when they want our attention, they really want our attention. For my cat, when he wants my attention, it's not a request, it's a demand. And if I ignore that demand, then things start being knocked off of shelves and I do pay a price. And when we ignore the big three, we often will pay a price, or the part of us that is not getting paid attention to will, what's the word? Turn up the volume. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, because remember I talked about potty training and all that? It seems to me that I'm pretty sure for all of us, if by age 5, we had pretty much mastered the art of knowing that that sense of fullness in our bladder means, teacher, can I go to the bathroom? That we need to ask, we need to find a time to go, that we've already learned how to identify a body sensation that we're feeling in the moment and act on it, or be with it in a way that's effective. So why not, at age 5 or 6, why weren't we also taught that the body sensations around the back of my neck, if it gets hot or tense, back of shoulders, into my jaw, that's the anger zone, that it's very likely if I'm feeling something around here that I'm having an experience of anger. I think as a 5-year-old, I would totally have got that. That would have been really, really useful. And it would have been really, really useful to know that if I have a sense of heaviness in my chest, or something, maybe sometimes a tugging sensation, or like a lump in my throat, that very well could be sadness. And yeah, someone wrote the parents would have to know that. We have not put that in our education. So, who's going to teach us? The teachers don't know it and the parents don't know it. So the opportunity going forward, while I do my rant on why didn't I, but the opportunity going forward is that we can teach. This is something that children get because they're already trying to master their body, their mechanical functions. It's so natural for them to wonder, what is this feeling of heaviness in my chest? Oh, that's sadness. That connects to when there's been some kind of an experience of loss or a disappointment, something didn't go the way you wanted it to. Yeah, we feel that way. Now I skipped over what the anger means. These are natural feelings that come from, the whole animal world of which we are a part, that this is where our hackles are, right? So if we get our hackles up, it's because someone's crossed a line somewhere, or maybe we've crossed a line, but there's some kind of awareness. Hold on a second. There's a trespass. So these are messages that we're getting. Our body is telling us something needs our attention. And in our belly, if we notice these sensations of kind of racy, queasy, I called it before fluttery sensations, then yeah, that's the fear zone. So maybe I'm feeling afraid right now. Whoa, as a 5-year-old, if I knew that's what that was, I would have been so much better equipped to be in relationship to myself and others. And then I could start to ask questions like, what do I do with those feelings? So I'm a big advocate for all of us. If we've got enough words to talk about, mommy, I need to go to the bathroom, then we're probably ready to learn about feelings, even if it's in simplified forms. And especially these big three of anger, fear, and sadness, and 2 more that we call the the core feelings, so that includes joy and sexual or creative feelings, that these 5 are really, it's really useful to use them as kind of the primary colors of feeling. That although we have rich vocabulary about, we instead of saying angry, we might say I'm annoyed or irritated or a little miffed, or we've got, or I'm enraged, or outraged. Wait, enraged, outraged. There's a lot of rage. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways we can talk about these feelings, and when we're learning them, it's really useful to just focus on, oh, these sensations are happening. I feel hot in the back of my neck, in the top of my head. Yeah, I wonder if I'm angry. And so here's the thing, to become aware of that, that's really helpful. But then what do we do? And my number one discovery that was sitting in a class with Katie Hendricks and all of my learning buddies, my discovery was that what they really need more than anything is just our attention, our loving attention. Sometimes I call it generous attention, because it's not attention with, okay, I'm going to give you 15 seconds of attention, then I got to get back to work. That's probably not going to work as well. Although what I've noticed is that if we're generous with our attention, sometimes it doesn't take that long for them to go, thank you. And all we need to do is say, hello, I see you. You can be there. Sometimes also, breath is really wonderful to give as a gift to our feelings. So if you notice that you're having an emotion, and this is why noticing where it is in your body can be really helpful, because if it's uncomfortable to you, and by the way, I hope everyone's noticed that we didn't even go to the good feelings, bad feelings place. Not going to, but any strong feeling can be uncomfortable, even love. And what can I do with that? And so giving it our attention and sending breath. So why don't you try that right now? As you're listening to me, any place in your body that just feels like it could use some more space, breath is a way. If we send it to that part of our body, we can create more space. So I notice the time is running out. I want to end with something there's no way to end this conversation. This is a lifelong conversation. But I do want to say that my shorthand for me has always been, and by the way, I feel like I'm just, somewhere in the middle of this journey of learning to open to and celebrate my feelings and emotions. But here it is. Feel the feeling, drop the story, and just let the wave of the sensations play through my body until it's done. That's the shorthand. And that's how the gift comes for me, is at the end of the wave. Sometimes in the midst of it, I'll get an aha, I'll get an intuition. And it's not the intuition or the impulse to hit or grr, or it's not the anger itself. It's what it's pointing at. I really care about something. I really care, and there's something I do want to do about this that I can do in the freedom of choice after I've given space to the feeling. So there's a lot more that we could explore. I have a few more minutes to stay on, and I know our hour is up. So I wanted to give it back to Michelle. And before I do that, one last thing. I'm going to put in the chat right now a link about this very skill of body sensations and writing. It's only 5 minutes long. It's by Katie Hendricks, and it's one of the most brilliant and focused ways that I've seen to go over this material again. Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you, Skip. And I also want to point out that if you look at the chat, I put a whole bunch of resources in there. So you can copy and paste that into a document for yourself, or you can save the chat if you know how to find that. Some people say, well, how do I find that? I don't know. It'll show up on your computer. So lots of resources in there. And I want to thank you, Skip. That was amazing. I feel like this is a conversation that goes on for the rest of our lives. And I appreciate you opening it up in such a beautiful way. So
Mm.
thank you. And thank you everyone who joined us tonight. So appreciate your participation. And so as Skip said, he's available to stay on the call for a few minutes afterwards. If you have some questions that you'd like to ask or discoveries you'd like to talk about, please feel free to stay on. And otherwise, we'll see you next time. All right. Thank
Great.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. If you have one more minute, I realize there's one more 1 minute point that I could give you that I promised in the write-up, and that's about feeling versus feeding your feelings. It's really simple. So if you stay for that, then here it is. I just gave you the drop the story piece, right? Well, if you want to feed a feeling and keep it going and going and going, the best thing to do is keep the story and go over it in your head, like, she shouldn't have done that, and I should have said this. And when we rehash, we create what's called a cognitive emotive loop. And you don't need to know that. It just means manufactured feeling. And we can do that. And those don't tend to end until we really drop the story and just go back to sensation. But for most organic feelings, if you focus on the sensations, 90 seconds average, you can let them play through your body and out. And you find this is where the joy is, in just letting it flow through you and away. It has a beginning and an end. So thank you for staying long enough for me to share that one last piece with you all. And I'm here if you want to chat or ask questions. This ex-Vulcan is very grateful to have had this opportunity to express this cool
Yay.
discovery in my life.
Yeah, thanks, Skip. I'm going to go ahead and I'll stop the recording now, and then I'll leave you to
Okay,
it.
great.
All right. Thanks so
Great.
much.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everybody.